This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
This time as we step off the DeLorean, the date is November 13th, 1994, and we are in the Pontiac Silverdome to witness a game between the Detroit Lions and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Lions won this game 14-9, so I guess it was a close one. But what was not close were the defenders trying to stop Barry Sanders on the day. The stadium kept chanting, "Barry, Barry, Barry," all afternoon to the tune of 237 rushing yards on 26 carries. This was the most rushing yards that he gained in one NFL game, en route to 1883 total on the season, his second highest of his career. Speaking of the highest, we jump forward a few years to 1997, one of the greatest rushing seasons of all time. It didn't look too good for those first two games of the season, because after playing the Buccaneers in Week 2 of 1997, Barry only had 53 total rushing yards. Then again, that second game of the season though, against the Bucs, he did have 8 catches for 102 yards and a touchdown. Only the second time in his career he would go over 100 yards receiving in a game. But here's a cool part, because the 1997 season, although Barry only had 53 rushing yards for the first 2 games, he still ended up with 2,053 yards on the season. Yes, you heard me right. That means that Barry Sanders, the greatest running back of all time, ran for 2,000 yards in 14 games in 1997. Let's hope this upcoming week, maybe Mr. Burrow can pull out his inner Barry Sanders to keep giving us hope of a strong running game going into the next year. And if you want to learn more about the early years of the NFL, head on over to thefootballhistorydude.com. But for now, dudes, I'm through if you're through.
And here we are for episode number 10 of Sundays with Dominic and Vito. We have finally gotten to this point in the show's history, Dom. I don't know if you ever thought it would get to this point, but glad to be joined by me, Hermano, Dominic Joseph Churko, on this week's episode, a milestone episode, as I would like to refer to it as. Dominic, how the hell are you doing?
And I can't fight this feeling anymore. The last show I'll ever record.
Good. That was good. It might be. Dom, we'll have you on sporadically moving forward, too, for Sundays of Dominic and Vito, since your name's in the title of the show. But anyways, for this milestone episode, I had to bring you back into the fray. And for some Michigan football talk really quick here, and I'm going to start off this week's episode. By the way, featuring a great interview that I recorded, so I call it great, but he's a great dude and a great state champion headman now in high school football in the state of Michigan at the high school River Rouge. It was great talking with Corey Parker, the headman of that varsity football program at River Rouge, winning a D3 state championship over Muskegon, pulling off an upset in the process and winning the first ever football state title in the history of the River Rouge football program. So that was really cool from the River Rouge Panthers, and being able to sit down with Corey Parker for that chat earlier in the week. But anyways, enough of that for right now, as I digress and want to get into some Michigan football talk, Dom. Now, we saw the Michigan Wolverines get annihilated by Ohio State in the final game of the regular season yet again. All the points they allowed. You could argue, Dom, it was even worse than a year ago when they allowed 62 and got annihilated at Ohio State. This season, another loss, but another 9-win campaign going into the bowl game. The Citrus Bowl against Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Dom, as a whole, how would you evaluate the 2019 Michigan football campaign? And by the way, if my voice sounds a little bit different, I'm battling a sore throat a bit. Anyways, to you now, Dom, and your evaluation of the 2019 Michigan football campaign.
Well, it's been, I would say, disappointing as far as, where they should have been. Starting out earlier in the year, they got through, some tough matchups, and they lost to Wisconsin on the road. I think that really told their fortunes the rest of the way. And how they probably wouldn't have been able to handle the big boys. But it was disappointing. The Wisconsin game, and then going on the road, at home against Iowa, it was disappointing as well. The week after that, so I would say overall it was disappointing for Michigan football.
Disappointing at the very least. Now, Harbaugh, should he be gone?
He should be fired. I mean, it doesn't make sense. There's a lot of guys that can win 9 games in college football. It's not like you need Jim Harbaugh to win 9 games. Michigan,
and for $7.5 million too, right?
Right. On top of that, but even money aside, Josh Gaddis could probably win 9 games with that roster as well. So it's not. I mean, their talent. There is a little bit of a talent discrepancy between them and the big boys like Bama, Clemson, and Ohio State, but it's not that glaring. And I think the players kind of admitted too in the post game against Ohio State that they felt they were evenly matched as far as a numbers game and well coached enough to go out there and at least make it a game and maybe even upset the Buckeyes. So especially at home, it was disappointing.
So Josh Gaddis, the next Michigan Wolverines head man. That's how you would have it. If you were in the mighty big shoes of Ward Manuel, the athletic director at the University of Michigan, you would fire Harbaugh and make that happen, replacing Harbaugh with offensive coordinator, as he is right now, Josh Gaddis.
Well, I didn't say I would do that, but I'm saying you could do that. I think he would be a top candidate for that position. Off the bat, he's on the coaching staff. He's new, fresh face as well. But he's got a pedigree. He played in the NFL with the Bears. He was a safety in the NFL. Made his name really known at Alabama. As the offensive coordinator, he coached some all pro wide receivers. He got a lot of guys that go there believe in the system. He helped Saban through. Helped all the other. He was a good position coach too as well before he became the offensive coordinator. So I think Gaddis would be, a perfect fit. That he has a feel for both sides of the ball.
I want to go to this too, Dom, really quick here. So Michigan, is it a program-wide issue, which is even bigger than Harbaugh himself as the coach? Is that what Michigan football is dealing with right now? The being stuck in the old ways, the ways of the past, and having a Michigan man, and just kind of an archaic way of playing the game of football. And when you're trying to become Ohio State, these nationally elite programs, Michigan seems to be stuck in a rut. Thus, I think you could argue Michigan is experiencing and has been experiencing for a while now a program-wide issue, Dom. So that's even bigger than Jim Harbaugh being the head man at Michigan. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't think, you look at, do you want kids to go to your school? And I feel like, we saw, Black's going to transfer now, and he's going to join the transfer portal. No, that's breaking news. But you see
breaking news here on this podcast?
Well, on the podcast.
Yes, there is.
So I think there is a little bit of a discrepancy of, kids want to see, they like, results, seeing, who's going to win, who's, winning, like a rivalry game, how kids do, at the next level. Are they prepared enough to go to the next level? And Michigan hasn't seen, especially on the offensive side of the football, a lot of guys go to the next level and succeed. They have a couple good linemen that have made it as well. So I feel like there is a discrepancy there. And I also think there's a discrepancy with being, maybe the next best thing, maybe being the best team in the middle of the pack, in college football. Which, I mean, if you're worried about that, then why don't you just go to Iowa? At that point, Kirk Ferentz has been there forever. They've been, at the middle for a middle of the pack program. They've been pretty, decent through, the Kirk Ferentz regime. So I think kids look at that and see, well, there's a lot of mediocrity, but there's a good chance I'll never see a championship. I won't see my future be, outlined by, success and, taking on to the next level, especially if you want to be a pro athlete, if you're good enough to be that. Yeah.
So, I mean, Dominic, in so many words, you're saying that Harbaugh hasn't coached up his talent. He's been settling or producing mediocrity, right? And after 5 years of it, well, you can do the same at Iowa with Kirk Ferentz. And Harbaugh, for making $7.5 million annually, isn't producing the results that Michigan fans thought he would, and especially by year number 5, when the gap between Michigan and Ohio State should have been lessened. But you could argue right now, Dom, that it's been widened. That's the widespread issue for Michigan football as a whole. That's even bigger than Harbaugh, but obviously it's pinpointed upon and falls almost solely upon the shoulders of Jim Harbaugh because he's the head man of this program and is being paid $7.5 million annually.
Right, I feel like you said, Ryan Day's first year, he goes in the big house and he makes it his own house. You know what I mean? So, they just obliterated Michigan, and Michigan was making all the mistakes. They looked like the team that was spooked. Ohio
State
really bad.
Came more prepared, was
Right.
more ready for that game. That should not happen for a big rivalry matchup.
Right.
And in year number 5 for Jim Harbaugh as the head man at U of M. Ryan Day was a first-year head man in that matchup.
And this isn't out of the territory where teams can't win a rivalry game. You saw with Gus Malzahn his first year with Auburn, they went they were at home, but they protected the home field at Jordan Hare, and they beat Alabama, a team with 2 Heisman Trophy winners on the same team. So with all that NFL talent, and they still beat them. So Auburn wasn't bad in and of itself. They had a good enough team around it, but the talent discrepancy was definitely there, and they got the job done in his first year, and it's taken Harbaugh way too long to get this done. Heck, Lovie Smith already has a top 10 win. Jim Harbaugh has none.
So really, it's not as much talent disparity between Michigan and Ohio State as it is coaching disparity, you think?
Oh, I think there is a coaching disparity. I think Don Brown has passed his prime as a play caller.
Not to cut you off, but at the very least, he should be fired, right?
Right.
At this point.
Yeah, and the guy that they wanted to send on a first-way ticket to Ohio was Madison. And now he's leading that group for the Buckeyes as well, and see how good their defense was. They had the number 1 scoring defense, and number 1 defense in all of college football. So a lot of it has to do with not only getting recruits but coaching them up, and it feels like there was less, especially with the mistakes against big opponents. They fall flat on their face.
Harbaugh, now 0-5 all-time against Ohio State as the head man at Michigan. Also, I believe he's 2-11 only, Dominic, against AP top 10 teams. And now these opponents have been in the AP top 10 when Michigan has played them. So not good for Jim Harbaugh. His second win against an AP top 10 squad was against Notre Dame earlier in the season when U of M rolled all over Notre Dame at the Big House. That was a pretty game for Michigan. But besides that, Harbaugh, through 5 years now, Dominic, has not consistently enough beaten the big boys. And really, you can't even go that far as say consistently, just almost at all beaten the big boys, including his arch nemesis from Ohio in the Ohio State Buckeyes. Anyways, moving on from Michigan really quick to one other topic with you, Dominic, on this week's episode of Sundays with Dominic and Vito. And that is LSU quarterback Joe Burrow winning the Heisman Trophy, Dom. Your thoughts on that? And the season. How about also the season that he had at LSU?
Joe Burrow, obviously the transfer from Ohio State. He waited his turn, and he wasn't ever going to be there. He thought he was the man. Once JT Barrett went down, and that next offseason he got that pinky hurt, and from there, his time was, the writing was on the wall that he wasn't going to play anywhere else, or he wasn't going to play at Ohio State. He had to go somewhere else. So it was good to see, the year that he had, the resiliency that he showed. Even from last year to this year, he's night and day better. It helps a lot with Joe Brady, the passing attack, the vertical passing game. He's got really good receivers like Jamar Chase on the outside. He's got a very good running back. He's got a really good offensive line. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the running back, who had 4 touchdowns against Bama. He looks, he's not afraid either. He's not afraid to, dice the ball through the middle of the field, sideline to sideline. It does help that he has the receivers, but he's doing this against very good defenses as well in the SEC. So very impressed with what he's doing. And just for everywhere he's been, all those Heisman candidates, a lot of them transferred, except Chase Young. So, it just goes to show you that, there's a spot for you, and try to make the most of it. And if you get that opportunity, take the reins with you.
And then Dominic, Nebraska could have had Joe Burrow. Scott Frost didn't want him. Thought he wasn't good enough. And then he goes to LSU where he is now, dominant. And how about in the SEC title game against Georgia? He killed Georgia. He had a few Heisman moments in that and really did all season long for Ed Orgeron and company at LSU.
Yeah, he had a very good game. And like you said about Scott Frost, Nebraska still doesn't really have a quarterback to this day, so that program's in disarray as well. And that, like you said, Joe Burrow, the play he had, with against in the SEC championship, where he looked like he was bottled up. He somehow got out of there. Eyes were down the field. He threw that ball deep to Jefferson, I believe.
He scrambled, right? Made a play out of it. Play out of nothing, right? And that was a big-time Heisman moment right there out of Joe Burrow.
Yeah, very good resiliency all year out of him. It does help the play calling, but this guy, he's in the film room, pretty much every day, So what he's done at LSU is, nothing short of amazing, considering where he was.
Do you have an Ed O impersonation, by the way, Dominic? You're really good at impersonating people. I don't know if you do.
I don't think I do.
He's got something else. When he starts talking, man, you can tell he's a Cajun native. And what a perfect hire he was for LSU. Taking over on an interim basis at first for the fired Les Miles, who was there for a century, it felt like. Ed Orgeron transitioned into the head coaching position, and it's been seamless ever since he took over, it seems like. And this year, LSU catapults to the top of the polls, and now in the college football playoff as the number 1 seed and taking on Oklahoma coming up Saturday, December 28th. And we might be having a bash over here at the Delta Resort. I'll just say that to watch those 2 college football playoff semifinals. So LSU does not need a new head man. There's a few programs we just discussed that might, such as Nebraska, and a guy that'd be, I think, perfect at a few college programs moving forward is my man, Corey Parker from River Rouge. I want to get to that interview right now, an interview that I recorded earlier in the week with the head coach of the 2019 D3 state champion River Rouge Panthers. Guys, here it is now. Enjoy. River Rouge head football coach and Division III state champion head man, Corey Parker. Coach Parker, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Great day.
And I bet you are doing great. Great day to be a Panther,
You know it. Great day to be a Panther.
And it has been since you guys won that Division III state title.
Correct.
And to be a Division III, just a state champion head coach, how does that sound to you?
Wow. It has a great ring to it. But most importantly, just the word coach means so much to me. State champion is something that not a lot of people get the opportunity to do, but being a coach is something that it takes a lot of sacrifice and pride that a lot of men cross that line and decide to do, and they never become a state champ. So I'll take pride in just that first word first, just being a great coach. And that means a lot to me. I had a lot of great coaches growing up, from, East Detroit Shamrocks to the East Side Cowboys, over to St. Martin DePores with Coach Carter. And then I was able to, be around such great coaches in college, and then obviously be around great coaches when I started my coaching career with Coach Scott Merchant, Coach John Dignan, just learning from those guys, and really just Coach Jari Brown, just really owning it and learning this is what it's like, this is what it feels like, and then getting back with Coach Carter and not only just being a player for him, now coaching under him and seeing this is what the terrain is, this is how you treat people, this is how you make kids' lives better. And so just being a coach, that's good enough for me.
And being a head coach here at Rouge since 2009.
Yes.
And you've won a state title already.
Yes.
We were talking off the air about how some people go 25, 30 years at the same program, let's say, never win.
Yeah, correct.
Never even reach a state final.
Yes.
You've reached it more than once.
Yep.
Plus, you've won it all.
Yeah.
I mean, what does that mean to you to have done it in that span of time? And also, did you ever envision getting to the mountaintop this quickly here at Rouge?
Well, this quickly, I can say yes. I have foresight and belief in myself and my staff and my players. So I knew, it's just that certain mixture that it takes. You heard Coach Ty Spencer at King say some good things inside of their post-game interview in reference to sometimes you come across a little bit of luck, and some things just happen at the right time. And this year, a lot of things just happen at the right time, and just by way of my defensive coordinator. He retired last year. His diabetes was bothering him, and he got married, and life was just working on him a little bit. And so I had to step in as a defensive coordinator. And so, nothing against Coach Burks. I love him to death, but he's a 4-down guy. He believes in a 4-down system. And the funniest thing is all of our defensive linemen graduated last year. Every last one of them. They're off playing college football. Rook, Jalen Henderson, Javier, Corey Dunson, they're all gone. And so it took for me to step in as a defensive coordinator and to learn some things from Jim Leonard at Wisconsin, from Coach Roy Manning at Oklahoma, Coach DK McDonald at Iowa State. And they're all doing some different stuff with 3 down. And so we really had to learn and believe in a 3-down system and say, this is what we're going to do. We're going to reduce our front. We're going to play a little bit smaller with stand-up people. So 8 stand-up people are going to be smaller, defensive back, linebacker type people, and 3 down linemen. And we're just going to believe in this thing, and we're going to run with it. We're going to be aggressive, and we're going to see exactly what we can do to give ourselves a chance defensively. Because for the realistic point of it, we also graduated. We graduated 9 guys on our defense. We only had 2 returning starters, so we had to do a lot of work this year. But just looking back and saying, wow, we're state champions. We've did this for 10 years. There's been coaches that have tried for years and years to do this. We had to really eventually just say, we're happy to be here, but we're not satisfied with just showing up. We got to try and win this game.
And you know what? So you've lost talent, too.
Yes.
You noted that yourself.
Yes.
So Rue, who went to Clemson, Reggie
Exactly.
Pearson's at Wisconsin,
Yes.
numerous dudes
Yes.
who were studs defensively here at Rouge have moved on to college at this point. Yet, you win the state title here in 2019.
Yes.
So isn't that the mark, Coach, of a good program that you've built up that can sustain the success over time,
Yes.
even when you lose guys from
Yes.
your program?
Yes, when you talk about the Coach Mocks, the Greg Carters, the Gionis, the Deans of the world, all of those guys won championships, and sometimes it wasn't with their best team. Sometimes it was with the team after the best team. And sometimes it was after they graduated so much talent. But it's all about the building blocks inside of their programs. The George Ports of the world, the Fracasas of the world. It's the building blocks that you put in your program, and you create the foundation to say no matter what type of players we have, we'll always be in the mix. And just sometimes when that good ingredient comes inside the pot, or that luck strikes at the right time, you might come up with lightning in the bottle, come up with something special to state championship.
What coaches have you taken the most from now over the time of your coaching career at Rouge? You brought up Greg Carter,
Yep.
some others.
Yep.
What are some names, some notable names throughout the state, maybe even nationwide, that you've taken some lessons from?
Gotcha. Well, definitely the 2 that I lean on the most is Greg Carter and Scott Merchant. Nationwide, I talk to a lot of college coaches about, just the process of recruiting, the process of X and O's, and when you have different types of players, when you do different types of things. But most importantly, when it comes to everyday operations of running a high-class, high-quality football program, is definitely Greg Carter and Scott Merchant. Those are guys that I was able to coach under. I played against Scott Merchant. I was a high school student at the Ports when he was at UD Jesuit, but I was blessed to coach under him in 2006, my first year out of college at UD Jesuit, and he taught me a lot about the structures of things and how to continuously drive students to be the best that they could possibly be, whether they were the best athlete or not. Because at UD, sometimes you don't have the best athletes on the football field, so we had to somehow just work with guys that were at their ceiling and guys that hadn't reached their ceiling yet. Or we had guys that, like Devin Gardner, that was eventually going to bust out of their ceiling and just continuously create more standards for them. Coach Carter definitely taught me, how to love kids from all different scenarios, and definitely X and O's. A lot of people don't know that Coach Carter is probably one of the best defensive minds this state has ever had to offer. When they were winning all those state championships to St. Martin DePorres, he was the defensive coordinator, and so I'll take a lot of pride in a lot of the things that I've learned from him because I can use old school stuff or new school stuff, all depending upon, what he's willing to open up and talk about, old school DePorres defenses and things like that they were winning state championships with. So those are some of the guys that I definitely lean on a regular basis. Obviously, John Dignan, who brought me into Eastern Michigan. He's a great defensive mind, coach linebacker at Eastern Michigan, when I was a safety at Eastern Michigan. And obviously, he's been a defensive coordinator and a head coach at different high schools all over the state of Michigan. These guys I've been able to really lean on. And there's several other coaches are part of the Michigan High School Football Coach Association. Brian Lemons, who I talk to on a regular basis, the head coach at Brighton. And we talk about program structure and building things and things of that nature. So I share ideas with a lot of guys. I would never be able to say that it's all about me and what I've been able to do. It's all about the different marbles that I've been able to take from different guys and create a great program structure that fit our personnel, our kids.
And back to you guys at Rouge. What a close-knit community.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys even shut down the city on Tuesday for a parade throughout River Rouge, all over the area. What does this state championship mean to the community at large as well, Coach?
Well, you definitely got to show some acknowledgement to Dr. Derek Coleman, our superintendent, and Mayor Mike Bowler. Those two guys put their heads together and said, we're going to have a parade for the team. It meant everything for this city. It means everything for this city. I don't even want to say meant because the celebration isn't
It'll
over.
be prolonged, right? Not going to end anytime soon.
This thing is going to be prolonged for the rest until the next football game is played. They're going to talk about the state championship. And it's so exciting because my players have worked so hard to earn that right to be discussed and talked about by so many others, for their names and their jersey numbers to be discussed by so many others that have never had a chance to sit down and meet them. But now there's a face underneath the helmet. Now it's personalized for the players to know a little bit more about community members and for community members to know a little bit more about the players. So it's definitely some joy in that. It's a lot of reciprocity in it because, you never know. You never know the relationships you develop. I mean, one of the young men the other day was asked, could he come and help old lady move her furniture inside of her house because she can't do it herself. But it's just those relationships that you're able to develop that she knows big teenage guys is willing to help her do this. But he's just met an old lady that might make him an apple pie someday. So it's really good stuff to watch it all happen right in front of me and to know that this community has deserved this for so long and they've yearned for it for so long in football. And I'm happy to be a part of the coaching staff that brought them their first playoff win, in 2012, their first district championship win in 2012, and 7 years later, the first state championship.
And pure jubilation for the whole entire community, including yourself. I was there at Ford Field for the D3 state final, and pure jubilation I could tell on your face and on the faces of many in the crowd that day. Defeating Muskegon, too. Of all teams that you could have beaten, you defeated arguably the best team, the team that was touted as the best all year long in any division, all throughout the state of Michigan, Coach. Did that make it sweeter as well that you defeated Muskegon? It made
it great because I knew I was going up against a great coaching staff. I mean, Shane, Brent White, Matt Bowles, that mixture of guys, Coach Dockery, that mixture of guys, I mean, they can coach at any college level. They have offensive linemen and defensive linemen for days. Everybody is 6'3", 6'4", and 300 pounds, and they're physical and they're well taught. This is not just a big group of guys; it's a big athletic group of guys. And then behind those guys, you got guys like Cam that is just so elusive and difficult to tackle. And, they do a lot of different things with misdirection and really try and put you in a position where, hey, are you going to take your eyes to misdirection, or are you going to really keep reading Cam? Or are you going to really be able to defend this blocking scheme, or are you going to try and chase Cam around? So it really puts you in a lot of difficult situations. Their offense and their defense, they just keep coming after you. They're a tough under front team, and they're just going to keep pressuring you and keep pressuring you. And so we had to find a way to meet their intensity. We had to find a way to out-physical the most physical team in the state. We had to find a way to outspeed one of the fastest players in the state. And I was so happy we were able to do it as a team. Each and every player, all 60 guys had some involvement. A lot of people don't know our top safety went down in the first quarter, Josh Wiley. And once Josh Wiley went down, we had to put in a guy that was a backup. And a backup came out there and had, a couple of big tackles for us in a great time. That backup's name is Tyron Heath. In addition to guys like Tyron Heath, you got guys that didn't start off this year as a starter with us. Darian Jones. Darian Jones wasn't a starter. He ended up picking up a starting role. This guy's 5'5", 5'5", and had 13 tackles and 2 sacks in the state championship. That's devastating. It's such a great story to tell the kids, telling kids, hey, it doesn't matter how big you are, how strong you are, how fast you are. You just keep working. You keep working. And eventually somebody's going to notice you. And so for a guy that's 5'5", obviously it's hard for him to get noticed. And I got defensive backs that's 6 foot. I got linebackers that's 6'2". But he kept working. And that guy came out there and he showed the world what he was able to do. And he showed the world it doesn't matter how big I am. I can play football with the best of them.
Next guy up, right? That mentality,
That's right.
The team effort. And a week before, you beat another good team in Chelsea.
Exactly.
Now, you made headlines yourself, though, with your pregame speech, talking about an apex predator.
That's
Am
right.
I getting that right?
That's right.
What the heck is that? And how long did you prep that pregame speech as well, Coach?
Usually my pregame speak is always I work a week in it. And so it's a lot of reading, a lot of studying, and just some acknowledgement on where we are. And for us, we started talking about, evolution. And, we started talking about that during the districts. And that for us was huge because we had to evolve, to be successful versus Retford Thurston in the district championship. And so I wanted to teach the guys about evolution and what that meant. And so how we had to adjust because DeAndre Bully was hurt. He was sick. He had the flu. And so it was very cold outside that night. And so we had to talk about that and what that meant. So we went from that phase to how we continued to we evolved to become predators by the time we played against Orchard Lake St. Mary's. And I told the guys I didn't need any businessmen. I didn't need any, great students. Orchard Lake has a lot of that. I need some predators today. I needed some guys that was willing to go and hunt some of the best football players that the state has to offer, one of the best coaches the state has to offer. We got to go and hunt these guys today on their field, in their terrain. And so the next step of that was to help them identify the evolution, the change that they had to become to win a semifinal versus another great program that had just been to the state championship the year before in Chelsea. We had to become the apex predator. It wasn't good enough just to be a predator anymore. We had to become the apex. What is an apex predator? He's the top of the food chain. He has no peers. He hunts everything and is never hunted by anyone. The reason he's never hunted by anyone is because he destroys all prey. And so for us, we had to make our kids understand that they had to go out and hunt to get to the next step. But they had to hunt as an apex, as the top of the food chain, not just as a regular predator, but as an apex predator, as an alpha predator. They had to get out and find it and find themselves, or most importantly, find their prey. And it happened to be Chelsea that day.
You fired me up too. Just hearing it right now. And then before, I saw State Champs posted it and everything. Now, how huge are the motivational tactics you believe when it comes to coaching up a program, such as these guys at Rouge? How big is it to bring that motivational factor to your squad?
I think it's big because being nonchalant nowadays is just so cool. It's just so in vogue. Kids, they see what's on TV and they just want to be like what they see on TV. Coach Gino Oriema was talking about it last year. You kids see a guy on TV and, I'm going to be like him. I'm just going to be cool. Well, guess what? That guy's a 5-star stud. He's a genetic hybrid. He has 2 parents that were major Division I athletes. He probably can be cool and still get his job done. Everybody doesn't have that ability. So motivation, I believe I have to touch them. I have to speak to them. I have to let them know where I'm at, what the message is for today, and what we're trying to get accomplished. And if I don't, I'm leaving something out there. It's almost like not calling the right play call. I have to turn over every single stone to make sure every single player is reached, whether they are a quiet and an introverted guy or whether they're a highly expressive guy. And it's not about rah-rah. It's no false bravado. What I'm putting out there is who we are and what we're trying to get done. And you see the fire that comes out of these guys when I get them going. So motivation is a large piece to what we really believe in doing here.
And then it has to be genuine, like you said as well. And you said everybody is different inside the locker room.
Exactly.
How difficult of a challenge can that be at times as well?
It can be difficult because you got some guys that really want to just spend time within themselves. And my thought process is to build the identity of the wolf pack. Wolves are successful predators, as we all know. However, they're the most successful when they work in packs, when their synergy is together, because they can feed off of each other. So that's what I'm trying to create mentally for my guys. You guys can feed off of each other's energy. And so fear is something that also lives inside of young men. They may have fear and anxiety of performance that day. They may have fear and anxiety about the opponent and how good that person is. But if you bring them with his teammates, hey, you're not going through this by yourself. I'm going through this with you. I got a pit in my stomach too. My stomach feels weird right now too, but let's go through this together. Once you bring them all together and you take away that individualism of fear, of worry, of concern, and you bring them all together, the kids believe, hey, we can do anything together. But we start that in the weight room. We start that when kids are squatting 315 pounds or 405, and they're no, you don't got to do this by yourself. We get his teammates surrounded around them, and they're cheering them on. So we start that process early. So we are essentially like a pack of wolves, and we're going to just, breed and feed off of each other so we can become strong with each other. I know I can't go on that field and just do it all by myself. I know I need my players. I know I need my coaches with me. So we got to create that synergy early, and sometimes it takes a little bit of verbiage for me to get that done.
So now that you've reached the pinnacle of success as a head man, winning a state title, what is next for Rouge football?
Rouge football, just taking the next step, which is it's going to be our parent meeting on January the 5th. Meet with all the parents, introducing myself to all of the new players, guys that are coming up from JV or guys that played youth league football last year and that are ninth graders right now. Really setting the standard, letting them know, hey, this is what we're doing. This is how we're going to do it. And this is why we're doing it. Talking about study hall, talking about the weight room, talking about not leaving school Monday through Thursday until 7 p.m. every night for 11 months out of this year. And just letting them know this is who we are. This is what have made us who we are. It's not mandatory. It's all voluntary. But if you want to be a part of this, if you want to get better, if you want to get bigger, faster, and stronger, we want you to be here. Running track, talking about that, being a dual sport athlete, going to the basketball games as a team, sitting in the student section and really just creating some fun and cheering on Jalen Holly and Carvon Stegall, Marion Rabowski, Amarion Smith, all of those guys that are on the basketball team, cheering on their teammates. We're talking about when the ring ceremony is coming up, in February when the rings arrive. We're talking about all of those things and most importantly, getting ready to find out who our week one opponent is going to be. We know that we've had some conversations with the Prep Kickoff Classic and still trying to figure out, who our opponent may be. And so we're excited, but most importantly, we're excited to meet our new players. We're excited to lay out the foundation so we can continue to build this place the right way.
What's next for you, though, in your coaching career? Because there's a team in the Detroit Lions who might be needing a new head man very soon here, Coach. But realistically, honestly, how about you long term? Do you see yourself staying at River Rouge the rest of your time as a coach? Because you're a young guy, yourself. You got a lot of coaching ahead of you.
True.
Do you see yourself still here at Rouge, let's say 15, 20 years down the line?
If I am a man of God, I am a faith-based person, and if that is the path that God has made out for me, there will not be an opportunity for me to go anyplace else. If there's things happen that I am forced now to leave and walk away from River Rouge for something larger per se, a college job or an NFL job, then that's something that myself and my family and my prayer will go through to make sure it's the right decision. Because ultimately, I believe when I get to those pearly gates, if I get that opportunity, I'll be asked how many people were able to impact, how many lives was I able to change. And I believe high school football gives me the platform to do that. So do I go down as a Coach Fracassa? Do I go down as a Coach Mock, the Coach Carters of the world, the Coach Harringtons, all of these legendary guys, Drake Wilkins? Do I go down like those guys and then continuously coach high school football, or is college football my path? I don't know. And one thing about it, I'm in no rush. I'm enjoying every bit of the process because I got young kids and I'm able to go home and see them every day. I'm able to help my son with his homework right in front of him and not be inside of a hotel room out recruiting someplace. There's a lot that goes inside of that college piece, and I'm sure with NFL as well. So I love X and O's, though. I love the challenge of football. I love working with safeties. I love working with defensive backs. So I know there may be other things that come up as things came up last offseason from some different universities, and I'm sure some things are going to happen this offseason with different universities. But most of all, I'm just blessed to have the opportunity to be around football after ultimately I'm just a player that knew how to tackle people. And I got the opportunity to teach kids how to tackle. That's all I am. I'm just a player that liked tackling people. That's it. And now, God be the glory. I got the opportunity to maybe coach college football. It's crazy to even imagine.
So time will tell for you. And
Yes.
you live how close to Rouge High School, by the way? Tell my listeners, please.
Exactly 75 steps.
That's awesome.
Yes.
So you can get here, and you do whenever you want to, right? In the middle of the day, at night.
At night. Sometimes I'm here 2, 3 a.m. Watching film on my projector so I don't have to wake my kids up. I've brought my entire projector set from out of my office in my house and brought it here so that I don't wake up the new baby. And so she can hear every time my footsteps move. So usually when my footsteps go out, I go out of the door and come up here so I can watch a little ball. And, it's a wonderful place that I work in as far as the city, the school district. They give me all the resources I need to continuously make this place successful and really do the best I can for the young men that I'm able to involve myself with. But most of all, as the dean of students, they give me the opportunity to change the lives of young women and young men as well. So it's definitely a great place to work.
And you're a film guru. I mean, you're willing to
Yes.
say that. You know the
Yes.
X's and O's. You care about that.
Yes.
Really quick, taking off your Rouge hat.
Yes.
Dissect the Lions for me.
The
What's
Lions.
going on with them? How would you dissect and diagnose their current issue or issues?
Yeah.
I think it's a multitude of issues for them right now, too.
Yeah, well, I think Coach Patricia has come from a program with the New England Patriots where he had the cream of the crop of players. They were handpicked for a certain system, and we don't have what we need right now defensively inside of our system. And I think it's affecting us in a very, very large magnitude. I think stopping the run, defending the pass well.
Defending anything, it seems like, at this point, right?
It's a lot of different things. I know the players are trying hard and the coaches are trying hard. I just don't think we have the type of personnel that's needed to be successful. And then offensively, when you can't get first downs when you need first downs, or do one of the two things nowadays, you got to be able to manage the clock and keep the ball from the opponent, or you got to be able to score a lot. And so if you manage the ball and keep the ball from the opponent a lot, your defense got to be great. So you can't be a time possession team if your defense is poor. If your defense is poor, you got to score a lot of points. It's either A or B. And so I know that the coaches are trying everything that they can, but when you really take a look at it, you say, who are we? Are we a
what's your
team?
identity too,
what's
right?
our identity? And for me, I am an identity and scheme-based guy. I've always been that. I know a lot of coaches live in that world, but some don't. I believe that, once we identify who we are as a program with the Detroit Lions, if we're going to say, hey, we're going to be an up-tempo team, and we're going to run the zone read, per se. Like the Baltimore Ravens said, we're taking Lamar Jackson, and we're going to run the zone read and the power read, and we're going to play action off of that, and that's what our offense is going to be. They're not running the same system they were running when Flacco was there. They had to do a complete system overhaul. And so that's who they are. That's what they believe in, and now look at them. And so I believe once we get to a point and we just say we're a system-based group and this is what we're going to do, instead of trying to do so many different things, we'll be a great program. But we're far from that right now because we're in between a lot of questioning of, is this the right coach? Did we let go of Caldwell too soon? It's a lot that's going on inside of that locker room probably, and it's always easy to do when it's, when you're losing. So all I can do is hope that those Lions get this thing turned around, because my son loves them, and I want to be able to sit and watch some football
that's
on
fun
Sunday.
and good.
Exactly.
A good brand.
And enjoy it. Exactly.
And Patricia and Quinn right now, not a good brand of football, obviously. Do they last? Do they develop an identity? For Patricia going into a third year, does he get that to develop that identity that you're speaking about that the Lions are lacking and hugely lacking right now?
If they don't, we continue to lose, and that's the issue. If they do, he's a great defensive mind, which we all know. And so if Coach Patricia is able to get the pieces that he needs to make the defense works more fluently, I believe we'll have the chance to make a bit of a surprising run. Obviously, we're going to need our quarterback healthy. That's a large piece of it as well, because you got to score points no matter what in the NFL now, especially when you got, quarterbacks inside
prolific guys,
yeah,
right?
You got prolific guys now. You're not just dealing with people that's handing the ball off all game. You got to find a way to score some points. So we're going to need our guy back. We're going to need to continuously upgrade and continuously work to develop a running game, because obviously, his body is wearing down a little bit to go through the injuries he's dealing with to sit out as many games. So we're going to have to develop a run game so he's not taking as many hits as he's been taking. I know the offensive line is doing everything they can, but we're going to eventually have to focus in on an identity. Are we a vertically passing team? Are we a short underneath West Coast style of passing team? A lot of things have changed since we've lost Golden Tate, since we've lost Calvin Johnson. We have went definitely scheme overhaul all over the place to a certain extent. So who are we? And I'm eager to find that out, and I'm sure a lot of fans are too.
I'll leave you with this. Jim Caldwell or Matt Patricia? Who do you take right now to be the head coach? If you were running the Lions, really any NFL franchise, I guess, who would you take of those two head men?
With the record as a head coach and the success that we had from our quarterback position, I'm definitely going with Jim Caldwell. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. Yeah, we were losing the first round of the playoffs, but we were getting to the playoffs.
That's the key, right? At least getting there.
You got and to win it, you got to get there. You got to get there. So I know Coach Patricia had a lot of success as a defensive coordinator, and Coach Caldwell has shown his success as a head coach. So I would love to see us back to winning. And, I think Coach Caldwell, if we're speaking of today, will give us the best opportunity to at least make the playoffs. But, right now, Coach Patricia's our head coach, and so I'm behind him, making sure that, hey, we got to just be a good fan, because what do I know? I'm just a high school coach.
Coach, congratulations again on the state championship. Thanks for all the time, and Merry Christmas to you and yours.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Definitely.
And Dom, that was Corey Parker, the head coach of the River Rouge Panthers. By the way, he took over the Panthers in 2009. As he talked about during that interview, had to weed out kids that were just trouble, were not good apples, got rid of them, and he has built up that program from the ground. Totally impressive what he's done there at River Rouge, building up that program to become a state champion caliber program. And winning this year against, of all teams, Muskegon, who was arguably, Dominic, the best team all year round in high school in the state of Michigan. And with the quarterback that is going to the Ohio State Buckeyes in Cam Martinez, Dom, he should be fun to watch at the next level.
Yeah, for what I saw, out of Muskegon this year, he obviously is a very good athlete, at that position. I think he's being recruited as an athlete. And it looks like, Justin Fields will be there for, at least next year as well. So, yeah, he's going to have a shot to play there. There's a lot of talent there and high-end talent. But, you hope you see a guy like an athlete like that, see the field. And he is, he's very quick. He has really good feet. Obviously at that size it helps. You need to have good feet when you're small. He can make something out of nothing, having those feet and small windows, and that'll help, get stronger at the next level, and, hopefully he takes off.
Back to Rouge really quick. How about the basketball team, Dominic, too? Impressive, man. The football team wins it all. Basketball team could very well win it all this year under Lamonte Stone, another past guest on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network, and another great head man and great guy as well. And so Rouge just beat in basketball Amani Bates and Ypsilanti Lincoln. They had to play the game at EMU because it was so darn packed. Juwan Howard was there. Tom Izzo was there recruiting Amani Bates, and also got the chance to see legend Jeter, the big man, up close and personal, who was dominant in that game against Lincoln. And I saw him Saturday night as well in the Horatio Williams Foundation Tip-Off Classic at North Farmington High School. And him and his Rouge Panthers teammates defeated Detroit King, a really good squad there from the PSL. So River Rouge basketball looking good thus far this year. Will be one of the best teams in all of high school hoops in the state of Michigan all season long, easily. And then once again, River Rouge football coming off of a campaign in which it captured the Division III state championship. And also remember, the first ever state championship in football for the high school. Guys, with that, I'm going to get to Dom to end this week's episode with one moment that he would like to share with us from the first 10 episodes that he's been a part of. Now, he's not been a part of all 10, but from the 10 down that you've been a part of, what is something that you've enjoyed or learned maybe about your brother that you didn't already know regarding his sports takes? And sometimes asinine sports takes. I'll leave it at that. They haven't been as egregious as that, at least, huh? So you're kind of, you're taking it easy on your brother, which I like. I admire that and commend that, Dominic.
The one thing I will say, though, is that most of these questions that I get are just, they're off script. So, I'm just answering these questions and, to the best of my ability. And Vito's, he's drilling me with all these questions. And he would be a good sergeant, You'd be good at directing orders, I can tell you that much.
Wow. That was so nice of you to say there. God, I'm so appreciative of that, Dom. Makes me sound so great, man. God, talking about me in such a positive light right there. Really appreciate that coming from you, Dom.
I don't mean that, in a
negative light?
In an evil way.
Okay, good. No evil intentions behind what you just said?
No evil intentions.
Okay, good. Good to hear.
Although, yeah, I would, if I were you, I would maybe, talk a little less, listen a little more. And, going forward, though, you're going to be fine.
Oh, I'm going to be fine. Oh, thanks, Dom. Really appreciate that. I think you're going to be fine, too, moving forward, Dom, away from this podcast as well. So, anyways, Dom, thanks for sharing that great memory or reflection on me with our audience on this week's episode. I think a milestone episode of Sundays with Dominic and Vito, episode number 10 of the pod. Always a pleasure speaking with you. Contrary to popular belief, Dom, and what we say off the air, always a pleasure speaking with you.
Same to you. Kudos.
Oh, great. So you share the sentiment, and we'll leave our audience with that. Dominic, adios for now.
Adios.
Now.